Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Wing Commander Andrew Figtree. We warmly welcome the family of Private George Newhouse, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony around Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors. Please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, please sit if you wish to do so. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the hearts of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives in operations for more than a century. But first, we present the lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private George Newhouse, who died on Gallipoli during the First World War. George Newhouse was born in 1891 in Granville, New South Wales, to John and Elizabeth Newhouse. He was the eldest of 5 surviving children. George's mother was hospitalised during his youth, leaving his father, a naturalised German citizen who had anglicised his surname, to work and raise the children. George Newhouse was a popular sporting figure in the local area, and by the time the First World War began, he was working as a blacksmith's striker. On the 20th of November 1914, only months after the outbreak of the First World War, he enlisted with one of his younger brothers, Harry, at Liverpool camp. The following month, with the stress caused by widespread anti-German sentiment, the threat of imminent internment, having sons and nephews in opposing armies, and losing his job, John Newhouse died. Elizabeth Newhouse' health deteriorated and she died shortly after her husband. George and Harry Newhouse were allotted to the 2nd Reinforcements to the 4th Battalion. They embarked from Sydney on the 11th of February 1915 aboard the transport ship Siang B. After a brief stop in Egypt, where the brothers were taken on strength of the 4th Battalion, they proceeded to Lemnos in preparation for the Gallipoli campaign. The 4th Battalion came ashore in the 2nd and 3rd waves during the early hours of the 25th of April. By the 2nd of May, the survivors of the 4th Battalion were digging in and improving their defences in front of Johnson's Jolly, a position along the ridge just north of Lone Pine, known to the Turkish troops as Kemezi Surt, or Red Ridge, when George Newhouse was killed. He was 24 years old. His remains were not identified when Graves registration units returned to the peninsula after the war in 1919, so his name was added to the Lone Pine Memorial, which commemorates more than 4,900 Australian and New Zealand servicemen who died in the area and whose graves are not known. George's brother Harry arrived on Gallipoli in early May, but was evacuated, suffering deafness by the end of the month. Though he returned to Gallipoli briefly in September, he was evacuated again in early October. His hearing and health had broken down and he returned to Australia in 1916. George Newhouse's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among more than 60,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private George Newhouse, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and good evening.